Hey,
Hey, nice to see you, mate. Fancy seeing you here again. This is becoming a little bit regular.
back with a vengeance.
Hey, actually, while you're on it, mate, talk to me. What are you doing tomorrow night? You're doing an educational program with a cash prize at the end of it.
A prize, not a cash prize. I need cash for a cash prize. But yeah, tomorrow I'm going to be doing tattoo trivia. We did one in August and it went gangbusters. So
It did.
going to do another one. It's really fun. It's just like a lot of people, I miss pub trivia, so being able to do that via Instagram Live is really fun. And like, you don't have to be a tattooer to play, it's like heaps of pop culture stuff about movies and music, and there's science questions, history questions, geography questions. So it's like anyone can play.
Yeah, no, I think it's such a great concept. And I think as far as the cash prize goes, we should be knocking on Iron Temper's door and asking them for either, if not a cash prize to tattooers or a gift voucher, but maybe, some merch for non-tattooers. I'm just going to try and invite the other guys into the realm.
I've got
See how we go.
I've got a couple of prizes up my sleeve, and also got a couple of special guests, quizmasters.
Oh, a quizmaster. What, Ian Turpie? Has he come back? He's a quizmaster. This is not George.
Big
fella. He knows it all. All right. So I think, okay, so if Todd and, you're on the shots. If Todd and Gummy are out there, just give us a wave so we know you're there so I can send you an invite. So back to the funny passing out stories, right? I think the most brutal one I've ever heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I got told years ago, a guy in New York in a street shop had got like a bit of Paul Booth flash when he used to paint flash, like, so mid-90s or something, right?
Yep.
And then he went to the front counter to pay and he passed out, but he fell into the front counter, which was glass.
Yeah.
And hit his jugular, like the whole full counter smashed and cut his jugular, and unfortunately died in the shop.
The worst part about that is Paul Booth would be stoked.
I should have blanked the Booth part out. I don't want to get sued if it's not true, but it was one of those definite urban. He probably, maybe not. Who knows? But it would be fair to assume, yes.
I forgot a really good pass out story last night. It was when I was at Man's Ruin. My friend Louis was tattooing in the station next to me, and he did a tattoo on a girl's arm. She was lying down for it, and then when she sat up at the end for him to wrap it up, she's just sort of like sitting on the edge of the massage bed, and Louis turns around to get Glad wrap, and she passes out like a fucking scuba diver going overboard, backwards off the bench, and Louis turns around and she's just gone. Like, it was that moment where he just didn't realize where she was. He thought she chucked a run and she's just on the ground, and we're like, holy fuck. And thankfully she didn't hit her head, anything like that. It was like, man, it was some Mr. Magoo shit. She just went straight down.
My Gummy just sent me a test. He's going to sit out on this one, but thanks so much for earlier tonight, Gummy. We'll wait for Todd to get into it. My first ever pass out of someone on a massage table was, I think, the late 90s in London. I was working, I'd left the street shop I was working in. I did a big van tour around Europe like all Aussies do, or did back then, for like, 3-4 months or whatever. And I came back and I got a job in the back of, like, mate, it was amazing, Covent Garden, smack bang in the center of it, in like the most craziest hair salon called Hair by Fairy, run by this crazy Israeli chick. I worked there for 3 months, right? They had a body piercing room out the back, and I knew her from Kensington Market when I worked there. So Red Hot Chili Peppers came in and got their hair done. The guitarist out of Eurythmics would get his hair done there regularly. It was like such a cool spot, right? So I had the piercing room out the back that I would piercing and tattoo out of, right? So I've just then, tattooing's opened up. I've got all these weird different people getting tattooed, right? So I've tattooed this chick and she's laying down on a massage table and she passed out. So I'm like, oh man, how good's this? Like, they're laying down already. This is epic. So I just waited and chatted to her. Look, you know, I think I got a friend to come in, like, hey, you know, you passed out, you're in a tattoo shop, the usual spiel or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the language barrier of German back in the late 90s, they weren't as fluent as they are now. And she's like, oh, I think I made a mistake. And I'm like, oh. And then I started thinking, oh, maybe I've made a mistake. It was like some sort of bit of tribal or whatever. And then I've turned around to look at the design or whatever. And then I just felt drip, drip, drip on my thigh. So I turned back around and I realized what had happened, right? And I went to her, hey, don't worry. This happens not all the time, but more regularly. Because you've got to reassure them, right? And I went, so I got up and I said, look, just chill, stay there. I don't even think her friend had noticed at that point. And I think I ushered her friend out, because Germans aren't known for the best senses of humor, right? So I think I got her out. And then I went to one of the, I think the shop manager or whatever, said, look, there's a mistake out the back. Can you go around the corner to like the second-hand store and just get a pair of trousers or whatever? So anyway, came back in and, you know, like, smoothed it all out and gave her another set and everything. And the crazy thing was, like, so embarrassed at the time, but she actually, when she went back to Germany, she actually wrote me a thank you card that I've got somewhere saying, thank you so much for making like a really, in a broken English style, making a really awkward experience, not that awkward sort of thing. So yeah, so that's, I thought I'd start off with a death story and then the opposite of death story.
That's the thing. I mean, like, we laugh about it now. Like, we laugh about all the pass outs because they're kind of wild and confronting and somewhat traumatizing, all that sort of stuff. But it's like, we're not making fun of the person that it happened to, because it can fucking happen to anyone, man. Like, you or I could go get tattooed and be dehydrated, no sleep, hungover, whatever it is, and it happened to us. Like, we're not making fun of the person, but you just sort of look back on it and you're like, oh, that was so crazy that that happened. But in the moment, it's about how you handle that shit with discretion, so they don't feel uncomfortable or weird or embarrassed or anything like that. You do your best.
Okay, so those little tattoos up there, I think I got on that side. I got them from Tony Ranger on the Gold Coast when Tony was still an apprentice from Paul Braniff. And like, I think I was 19 and he's tattooing me over the collarbone. He free-handed it on or whatever. And I remember going, I'd already been tattooed by Paul. And then I went back and I got tattooed by Tony. And he's like drilling away. And I just remember the room like spinning, right? And I said to him, I think I'm going to have a break, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, whatever, blah, blah. And Tony was not a man of many words, still is not, but so amazing, right? And then I started again, and I just remember the room closing. And I had to go, I've got to stop, mate. I can't do it. And I was so embarrassed because I was like, yeah, I'm a tattooist from Melbourne. And I think I got an hour and a half into a 2-hour appointment, and I paid him up for the 2 hours. And then I remember sitting on the beach and just like going, oh, I feel so embarrassed, you know, all the rest of it, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't even want to go back there the next day, you know, because I felt the shame. So I think from that experience, you learn that it's normal and you've got no control over it. I think Todd disappeared. We'll get him back in the room. But yeah, it's definitely one of those, even though we're joking about it, and it is meant to be some lighthearted entertainment, but there's also like a serious side to it.
Yeah. It's knowing what to do when it happens is probably the main thing, really.
Yeah.
Look back.
So Todd, what's your best pass out story?
Personally, or what I've experienced?
Let's go for both.
Okay, I'll one of the most memorable was not myself. I don't think I've passed out like properly, but Pretty in Ink, fucking years and years ago, there was these two lads, you know, because there was the West Ryde pub, like across the road, tipping them in, full of all of it. And they were like, yeah, we'll get, we'll get a bodysuit in 45 minutes. Got to go for dinner. Yeah, me and Toby, all good. Yeah, mate, just sit down. We'll do what we can. They were just, whatever. They were ready to go. So we'll just like stick on the stencils, get it, do it, whatever you can do as quick as you can.
Yeah.
You got to get paid,
Yeah.
And then these guys, they're like sort of, big sort of dudes, tradie guys. And then Toby's guy, my guy, I was just like, man, I just held on to his arm that hard he couldn't get out of the chair, as you do. And and then Toby's guy is like, because Toby was like super nice, like, oh, you want to go to the toilet? You want to do this? I'm like, yeah, I'm not that accommodating in that way. Like, you're here to get a tattoo, and then you leave to go to the toilet in the pub.
Minutes, for fuck's sake.
I'm good to support you for all that, but like when you're here, you're getting tattooed. That's what you're here for. And then he's like, oh, like the bells and whistles and all the nonsense. And then it was about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I was like, bro, where's he guy? And he was like the biggest guy. And he's like, oh, no. I don't know where he's gone. And then we was like, oh, okay, gave it another 10 minutes. He still hadn't come back. And because there used to be an outhouse at Pretty and Ink in the back sort of area. So he had to go to the toilet out the back, and everyone smoked out there and stuff. And I was like, fuck. And like,
Toby's
made
like me get up out of my chair.
Yeah, fully. And I was like, fuck's sake, I know exactly what I have to do. And because he's just like, oh, he hasn't come back. And I was like, righto, fuck's sake. Sorry, mate. Out I go. He's passed out. He's blocked the door. Passed out still. He's been out for about 20 minutes.
Fire hazard.
So I had to kick the door in. It's like an outhouse. So it's the old wooden door. It's actually made properly. It's been there for 7 to... It was a battle, and it's got the louver window. And I was like, fucking hell. So we literally, I kicked the door in. And he was alive. What he'd done, he'd gone for a piss. He's doing that, and just dropped and hit the top of his mouth on the
cistern.
Yeah, on the top of the thing. And he'd because he put the seat up and he hit the porcelain right there.
Oh.
He ate it, and it literally his teeth were gone. He's he went down like a sack of spuds. And his teeth were gone. And the thing was, we were looking in there, we got him out, and it wasn't an ambulance job. There was heaps of claret and all that, but he wasn't, he come to, I think they might have fucking, go on, fucking fix yourself up and we'll get out of here.
Yeah.
Because we left him in, I put him in, with the sterilisation room. I was like, mate, whatever you got to do, fucking get yourself sorted and fuck off.
Yeah.
And
I tell you what, I've never experienced it personally, but not the new faint, but sorry, my cat's just attacking me, little prick. Not the new fainting, because people don't faint so much anymore, but people come into your studios these days and you don't know that they've self-medicated because they're scared of the pain. So they've taken all of these sort of pharmaceutical drugs or whatever, and and I've heard of stories of where ambulances have had to have been called because people have just fucking OD'd on tramadols or endones or whatever. I remember years ago.
And the funniest part about that story was, he'd done himself in, there was claret, he'd actually smashed the bowl of the toilet. He'd hit it that hard, just proper dropped, and he would have been, 6'5", like that. He was no small man. And the craziest part about it, I remember we were all like, fuck it, that was crazy. And then we went out there, and he had the stencil was up in the top corner of the of the ceiling. I was like, how the fuck did he get up there?
Wow.
What was he up to? The stencil of his arm was up there.
Hey, talking about that, what about stencils on tattoo shop toilet seats?
Yeah. How does that happen?
How do they not see it? How do they not like, come on, mate, we know it's you. Why don't you just clean it? Come on. I remember back in the day at Innovision, I tattooed this guy, Big Jace. He was a big unit, right? And I was doing something on him, and he took so many Valiums, right? And I'm like, you fucking joking, mate. Like, I'm scared, right? You can't do this stuff. And he went to take more one time, and he like slumped forward in his chair and dropped the whole bag of them on the floor. So I just picked them up and hid them. But at the same time, his like keys went on the floor. So I hid them too. I ended up tattooing him for the rest of the time. But at the same time, I'm like, what do I do? This fucking dude's like 180 kilos. Like, you know, like, I can't really go down to the boss and go, hey, I've got to cut this appointment short. He's like, no, you tattoo me for the 3 hours, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then somehow fucked him off. And at the end, he came coherent. He's like, where are my keys? You've ripped me, you've stolen.
Yeah, and that's so
you do your best, isn't it? Yeah, you do your best to get them out of the door.
Because they think you've stitched them up, and you're like,
yeah, 100%.
No, you pissed yourself on the ground, and I tried to catch you. Yeah, I'll hit the wall. You're fucked. And now I'm the robber. Like,
the community. His girlfriend worked up the road. His girlfriend at the time worked up the road at Wheels and Doll Baby. I think I even tried to get hold of her and go, he's a fucking mess. Like, help me here. And he took off. He come back the next day. He was so pissed off. Yeah. I'm like, are you fucking serious, dude?
Oh, no, yeah. Like because it's, you know,
how can I let you loose on the fucking roads like that?
You've got to be that fucked. Like they're that fucked that they can't remember it. It takes like, you know yourself probably. I don't know. I've been told
called this, it duty of care.
Yeah, but I've been told myself if you take that much stuff, allegedly, it takes a few days to come good.
For sure. Well, clear on those medicated like prescriptions says don't operate heavy machinery or drive.
That's right.
You know,
that's exactly right. But I had this is early in the piece. This is 15 years ago in Redfern. I had a girl, you know, young girl. She wanted to get this thing on the back of the spine, blah, blah, blah. Hadn't even tattooed her. And we used to have this like big, like it was like a wall mirror, but it hadn't been mounted. It was just leaning against the wall. And I just like put the thing on like a spine, like fresh, super fresh. I've been tattooing for 30 seconds. And I was like,
that's straight.
Are you all right? Yeah, you're all right. Put the sensor down. Oh, she's gone through the mirror.
Wow.
Head first, man. I hadn't even tattooed her, nothing.
Yep.
It's just like the whole the pressure. And I found I don't know about you guys, but it comes in like, it all happens in 1 week. And then it won't happen for another 5 years. And then it'll all happen in 1 week again.
Yeah, well, I find now. Sorry, go MJ.
Oh, sorry. That one's a crazy one when you're putting the stencil on, and for some reason the stencil's just not landing on them, and you're like, what the fuck? And then you realize they're doing the fucking Michael Jackson criminal dance, you know?
Yeah. That's exactly what she did. Like I stuck it on, and I turned around to put it back on the thing, like the bench, and then turned around and she was gone, and I was like, oh.
It's mental, mate. It's so mental. But now, you know, fortunately, we're in an era where pass outs are pretty rare. So I'm sure you probably get this as well, Todd. Like when I get a pass out in the shop, the manager or someone else, hey, Rhys, someone's just passed out. You know, can you come deal with it? I'm like, oh yeah, just walk over. Oh hey, how are you? My usual spiel.
I just send the girl, you know, not just the girls, but the counter hands or whatever. I was like, go get some cans of Coke, lollies.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet. Don't panic. Just stay there.
Part of it is less people are getting tattooed sitting up. Less people are like, I don't know about your shop, Todd, but like if you guys have like the Tatsol chairs, like the foldable sort of chairs, or if you go like massage beds.
Oh, we've got a couple.
Well, I think like a lot of people now are lying down getting tattooed as opposed to sitting up.
And do you know?
I think
you know what I think about a lot of it is like people don't look after themselves anymore. You're either a vegan or you're a fat bastard. You know what I mean? There seems to be no like you can't go to get a tattoo and not have had any sugar in your system. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Like it's as simple as that.
Also now people are more likely to say something if they're feeling a bit off, whereas before,
crap.
the stigma in the tattoo shop was like, oh, I can't let them know I'm feeling a bit groggy, and they'll think I'm a pussy.
Yeah,
a bit more proactive.
Well, I tattooed like a whole bunch of like, and then my friends too, like the armed forces guys, like serious guys that have been away for, you know, lots of missions and stuff.
Yeah.
But they live on that shit. You know, like they'll get a sleeve and see you 6 months later and be like, hey bro, I haven't seen you for ages. I'll see you last week, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but then, yeah, but that's part of their regime. You know, that's part of their, that's part of war and pain and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, they do that stuff. That's a total thing. I was like, I just don't want to know. Don't tell me. Yeah. But I know the colour you turn when you have too much.
Yeah.
That's what they use for their life.
Yeah, and that's, you know, one of those things of being, you know, all inclusive and non-judgmental, all the rest of it.
I'm not the police. I'm not the judge or the jury. Like, I'm there to do my job. They're there to like have their therapy / time away from whatever they have to deal with, and that's it. Yep. That's why we're friends.
Mate, one of the craziest stories I've got about that, I think I was working at Skin Effects on the Gold Coast, right, when early 2000s, right, and I remember we had this American guy come over from Afghanistan or somewhere in Iraq or whatever, right, on that's where he came. He didn't go back home, and he wanted all of this death stuff tattooed on him. Yeah, and I could just see the poor dude was on 2 weeks leave into like maybe a year tour or whatever, signed up for another one going back. And I remember he got me on the counter and I'm like, oh man, you just tell in the eyes, like, you know, he's fucking hurt. He's seen so much crazy shit that he didn't sign up for. And I'm like, man, you know, I don't think this is you know, trying to be like, there's got to be more positive stuff. You know, then you've got more, and there's going to be more. But, and then, you know, so I did my bit, but unfortunately he did get tattooed, you know, by someone else, you know, at another studio. And I saw him in the street because the Surfers Paradise is a small world. And, you know, back then and blah, blah, blah. And I just remember thinking like, that's so fucked. And then I remember a couple of years later, I'm down at Innovision and I tattooed this guy who, really cool guy, got on with him really well. He had the report instantly, and then unfortunately his father passed away, and then he's like to me, I want a massive cross on my arm with dad, RIP, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, you know, I said, mate, come back for a consult, you know. So I chatted to him and he was hurting, man. I'm yet to go through that experience, you know. But everybody does. And I remember saying to him, like, man, like, you know, I know you're hurting, and you want everyone to know that you're hurting. But it was really a hard thing to say of like, you don't want to insult them. You don't want to cheapen what they're going through. I don't know how to what is. So basically I ended up talking to him and saying no, saying this was all before the funeral. He wanted this done. And I went, come back to me afterwards and we'll work out something else and I'll do it. And he was like, oh, at one point I'll go somewhere else. I said, no, please don't, you know. So anyway, he did come back in the end. And in the end, the next consult I did with him, I was like, all right, what do you want to do, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden he just goes to me, oh, do you do portraits? And I'm like, oh, not really, you know. But then I started talking to him about his dad and all that sort of stuff. And his dad was a massive Phantom of the Opera fan. He'd seen Phantom of the Opera all around the world. I think he'd seen it 103 times in different theaters throughout the world. So we came up with this plan to do, because I was shit at portraits, but he wanted me to do it. We did the face of his dad, but most of it was the Phantom of the Opera mask. And I ended up doing it chest on the left-hand side. And man, it was so nice to do. And I've never tattooed him again afterwards, but every now and then he just drops into my life through Facebook or Instagram. And it's like, you know, you did something cool and you helped someone, you know, in that moment of of desperation and pain that, you know,
definitely.
we're all
Like,
going to
through
experience it
my
at one point.
yeah, well, through like doing, you know, I've spent most of my career doing black and grey portraits. And it's
A lot of
probably, as
that is
much as I've shied
memorials.
away from doing a lot of it, because I was like, oh, there's this whole world for doing. Now I'm like, you know, I'm super stoked I can achieve those results, you know.
Yeah.
And because I've had, I spent a lot of time, you know, I've had my own pain in my life. Like, it's always going to be there and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's important for me to be able to relate to the people that that I try and help, I suppose. You know, like I sort of realized over time that was my position in a way. You know what I mean? Like, and it's I understand it now, whereas before I just sort of picked it up, sort of, you know, I wouldn't say like super quick, but I learned how to do it fairly quick.
Yeah.
And I was interested in it. Yeah, obviously interested in it, so that's why I picked it up quickly. But I got more into, and still am into, sort of the pain of the side of it. You don't want to dwell on it, but that is reality.
Yeah.
And there's not many, you know, go on to get tattooed by Freddie Negretti and guys like that. Like they sort of showed me that it's all right to be that guy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you don't have to, you don't dwell on it, but everybody knows that you've had your own story, and then, you know, you try and help people with a similar story.
Yeah.
And so that's been pretty important to me, and that's why I was like really wanted to hone in and come back around to doing the black and grey thing and hone back into it, you know, the way I should really.
Yeah, because, you know, like the memorial side of tattooing is so huge. Like when I worked at Skin Effects on the Goldie, like Paul Braniff was one of Australia's premier portrait artists back in the day.
And I learnt off working next to his stuff, you know.
Yeah.
You know, Paul, I've done a lot of stuff next to him. Like most of the stuff from the 20 years before, it was next to his stuff. Yeah, so I learned from his fading and what he didn't go heavy enough on. You know 100%. What I mean? Like, and that's like that was always really important. Like I remember saying to guys like, "Oh, he taught me how to do hair, and I never even met the guy because I did all these." Like I've finished the sleeves off he never got to, and you know, like I've done heaps of that stuff. And it's been a super learning curve, and that's why I got a lot of respect. But I never got to meet him. I've met his son and stuff, but I never really met him. I think I might have spoke to him online, like maybe once, early days.
Paul was cool, mate. He was a big influence on me, and you know, like he used to do probably 50% of his tattoos were, or up to 50% were memorial stuff. Yeah, and I remember at one point, like you know, I was living in Burleigh and like one of the young surfer guys, Vaughan, passed away. His brother was a pro surfer. So I tattooed the rest of the family, but Paul tattooed the mum. And it was one of the first times he ever did a portrait upside down on her. You know, because normally back in the day, this is early 2000s, you're like,
is that Mick's mum?
Yeah, you're like, I ain't doing that. But he did it. And then I remember, you know, I was tattooing like Vaughan's older brother at the time, like a big sunset piece and surfer stuff on him. And at the end of the day, like, I don't think sometimes clients understand the emotional connection that goes into it. And Paul was a tough old boy, man, you know. Yeah. He wasn't a biker, like a patch biker, but he was from that biker era and a tough old man, right? And
he's what the bikers made their culture of. Like, it's real.
But I remember we were out the back in the room at the end of it, and he's like, oh, he just goes to me, you fucking cunt, you made me cry today. You know, like tattooing that lady. Like, you know, and it's just, it's, and those moments in tattooing are the magical moments when it's more than tattooing. Yeah, you know,
well, I'm glad you touched on it because it's sort of like, because the thing, I've got this like rule, I've got like sort of weird rules that I have, but I don't promote memorial. Yeah. That's why I never post it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, because
never
it's a
posted
personal
it
thing.
on social media. Like I've always had that rule. I've never posted it.
Yeah.
And I've got like, yeah, I do a lot of it. Like I would say, like realistically, averaging over the years, like 2 portraits a week,
Yeah.
memorial.
Wow. Yep.
So like, yeah, 2 to 3.
Yep.
And you know, it's not like, you know, stylized or whatever. I don't like. I like if I'm gonna do a memorial piece, yeah, I'll flip it if it's going to be flipped to make it point in the right way, front ways, and aesthetically pleasing. But I don't get all fancy. I just like fade it off, do it nice. You know, that respectfully, exactly the way it's supposed to be done.
100%. Because
it's really crazy.
it's
like
such...
when you
Go in, Jay.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say it's really crazy when you do have to do a pretty heavy tattoo, you know, and the person getting it, you know, is sort of they might cry or break down, and you should be able to console them, all that sort of stuff, and being able to like handle that sort of situation with care, and also sort of, you know, coach them through it. It's like, it's sweet, you know, try to keep a good mood about the session.
Yeah, and I think like a thing for me is like just my own personal experience, like because that's the sort of chose me to go down that road, you know. So it wasn't like a super deep decision and whatever, but maybe like my personal pain, like I can easily relate, so it doesn't make me uncomfortable. Like to be in that situation, like I'm fine, I'm good. I'm actually better at the end of the day than what I was at the start.
I think one of the hardest parts is when you have like a sitting like that, and they wrap up, they leave, and the next appointment you're tattooing a fucking meme on some dude coming in for a laugh, you know, and you've got to... I know, but I suppose, you know, I don't want to sound like that guy, but but in the way it's worked out, that I don't really have to do the meme guy. So when I've got you know, if I know I've got that situation, I'll respect that day, you know, like I'm not going to try and squeeze shit in for money, like it. And I'll never charge full freight for memorials ever. Because you can't. Like I'm lucky enough that I've been chosen. I'm lucky enough that they give me, you know, trust me to do it. And it's a lot of pain and for them. And I appreciate that pain. And I'll do the best I can. And I've got to make a living. And I explained that. I was like, you know, I've got to make a living, whatever. And they're like, fucking, they want to pay you triple, but I will never take more because it's not about that. In that situation, it's the opposite.
It's 100%. It's compassion, it's humanity, it's everything rolled into one.
And I think, like, you know, without getting too spiritual about it, like I think I was chosen to do that.
100%, man. It's a special thing to be able to, you know, to be involved in when those moments come from something not so nice, to be able to turn it around and give someone like a nice memory forever and to work through it with them.
And I like that, you know, it's a like with that situation, you know, a lot of people are judged by their cover, you know, because you can't put a color, a dot, you know, a shape on the person that wants to get that memorial, you know, like there is no bias, and that's the special part, like because loss is reality. And so that that's what makes it really important, and I think it's like it's not everybody's thing, you know, because that's just the way it goes. But that's I really like hone in on that. Because I think I've been chosen to do it. Like that's why I like to do it.
That pressure of, you know, doing something so special and so important to that person as well. And it's a huge responsibility as opposed to, I mean, every tattoo is a huge responsibility.
It is a responsibility, but that's what, you know, in my world, that's what I signed up for. So that's my job. You know.
100%.
And I think it's super important. It's super important because it's part of healing people. It's part of like humanity. It's part of, you know, Yeah, it is.
No, power
I
to you,
feel quite
Todd.
strongly
It's
about
a
it.
good thing. You know, in my realm of tattooing, doing Japanese stuff, it doesn't come around that often. But it's, yeah, it's a special gift. It's a special person that does it, and it's a special person that just generates that sort of energy shift where people just gravitate to you towards it.
Yeah,
So,
but you know,
yeah, I
like
take my
yourself,
hat off to
like
you. It's
a
amazing.
lot of your, you know, when you're doing big work, it's from, you know, their backstory is family, and you know what I mean, and they're coming to you. It doesn't matter. It's like skateboarding back in the day, man. It doesn't matter what color you are, what shape you are, what the fuck you wear. It's like you're there.
Yeah.
And you're doing your best version, and people gravitate to what you're up to, you know what I mean? And that's important within what we're all doing. I think it's like inspiring to, like, you're not Japanese.
Far from it.
But you
That's why
are
I called
doing
my shop
amazing, and
Little
people
Tokyo.
want to get what you're doing. Like, you know, I'm not fucking cholo. As much as I fucking think I am, and I'm cool, but, you know, you can only hang in East LA so many times before they tell you to fuck off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's
totally.
like, it's the culture of it.
Yeah, totally. And I think, people gauge it and people work it out pretty quickly. You know, especially when they meet you personally, or there's a recommendation. That's like the best way.
Yeah, you just gotta. It's honesty, man. People can. Yeah, honesty is a career.
Yeah. I think I was talking about that. I brought that up last night or the night before or something. Like, you know, life's pretty simple, right? Like, maybe not so much when you're younger, but, you know, as you get older, you work out the facts of, like, just be upfront. Just tell it as it is. There's so much less bullshit to deal with. And, you know, and that's the way it is. And, you know, I think people are coming into us, you know, MJ, you, me, they know that you're an upfront person. They can gauge that. The human nature can, even if they walk into a tattoo shop and they're a little bit suspicious or they're a little bit like awkward.
Which is totally natural.
Exactly, 100%. But your interaction with them and then how you approach them and talk to them and your body language or even your tone, the vocabulary you're using puts people at ease instantly. Totally. And then, you know, you go from there.
It's very important, you know. It's really important. And that, I think that's like that going back to the apprentice thing or whatever. But, you know, I think that's like, it's a huge thing. Like I left out with like Grace, you know, like she speaks Japanese. She works for like an airline.
Amazing.
Yeah. And, you know, that sort of thing. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, yeah, you're going to pick an educated person, but you don't want to go pick the uneducated person. Because we're going
I imagine
into,
you guys,
like, you know, not to say uneducated, but we're going into a very educated world.
Yeah.
It's much bigger than us. You know what I mean? So you got to think about that. Like if you're gonna teach somebody to go forward, they got to be smarter than you.
100%. And Todd, you and I have not done any university education. You, MJ, you have. So younger people that are coming into it that have had the opportunity to take this stuff. If you're not up to the cause, they're going to look at you like you're a dickhead.
Yeah, but
if you've got no structure or formula.
Yeah, and it's totally true. And like, you know, us old balls, we're like we were there, so you can't teach that in university. Yeah, you know what I mean. So that's our ticket. You know, that little ticket, but we're not going to be. I don't know how to speak properly in front of people. Like that's my crutch. I'd love to learn how to do that. I was actually talking to Chris Rand the other night about it. Doing like a public speaking course, and he's going to try and put me in the right direction.
Totally,
he's someone that I can't talk. You know, I get frustrated and swear.
Continually re-educated himself. Like even tonight, like I put up that post and I spelled apprentice wrong. My missus goes, come downstairs and goes, check your messages, cockhead. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? I looked at her, I just changed the thing. Tell me, and she's like, no. And she's going, you spelled apprentice wrong. Like, do you realize
I just put the little devil guy with the tongue over the C.
You were the only one that clocked it. And MJ's got a university education.
I'm not going to let you get away with anything.
But fake news, exactly. But people think people would think, oh, Rhys is credible. We'll give him a pass because he spelled it wrong.
Hey, do you know what that means? Do you know what it means?
Tell
You're
me.
human.
That's what I thought as well. I was like, you know what?
Human, mate.
I'm going to leave it. And that's why
if I had done it, you
would
would have told me.
Yeah, far from perfect. So, but MJ, so for you who's had a structured educational system apart from primary and secondary school, like with Dan, how did you find relating to him with his way? Like, is it a different way of thinking or what? Or you just like, oh, this dude's cooked. What the fuck's he trying to say to me?
Because I did 2 art degrees at uni. So many people were like, oh, you know, that would have helped with tattooing. It's like, no, like the stuff that I learned at uni had nothing to do with anything in tattooing at all. Like there was 0 transferable skills.
Yeah.
You know, like I think I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot of stuff that I might use for, you know, making like little ads for Instagram or whatever. But I mean, like, didn't help with tattooing. So it was very much starting from scratch again, you know, and like learning the way that Dan wanted to teach shit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was like great experience, learned a lot, got 2 degrees that I'll never use in my fucking life. Met a bunch of great people, moved to Wagga because of uni. And I just think of that. If I didn't go to uni,
but then you wouldn't be tattooing,
right?
Yeah. And that's what happens, isn't it? Like you can, you know, I was a carpenter for 10 years from school.
Yeah,
I did my apprenticeship,
was a
did the thing, and like, man, I had my nail bag on last week. Like I still had my nail bag on all the time because I sort of like doing it. But I never not liked doing it. I just had to, I just had something else to offer. I just had more to offer. I just thought, you know what, I've got more in me to. Yeah, I was traveling the world, and I just thought there's more in there. I just don't want to deal with it.
Because what was your deal, Todd? Did you start tattooing in London, or were you getting heavily tattooed in London?
No, so I was like I lived in London for years. Like my mum's English.
Yeah.
And I lived there for like 4 years. Came back, bought a house in Chippendale, like a terrace house, 2-story. When you could, like, we bought the one like on next to Everleigh Street, so we were the block over. So you could still buy terrace houses around there, like because it was white people didn't get it.
Undesirable.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a place where you sort of went. And
the block now is fucking crazy.
I know, yeah. Let's not even talk about it. But you know what blows me away about that situation where the block is in the station, and so they bulldozed the block and they put a goddamn high rise for this housing right on the station. It's like you just created the same problem again. In 30 years, that's the same problem.
100%. But the thing where the block is now, like one of my best mates bought the old building of Innovision. So I'm there regularly, like hanging out with him.
Recently, yeah.
He's renoing it and all that sort of stuff. But the block itself, that whole area, the way I look at it is it could have been used so much better. It's just a fucking.
They should have used the historic part of it.
Yeah,
like the
there's no green parkland anymore. It's got no soul. It's
but it has so much soul. You know what I mean? Like they tore it out. Like of course it was a terrible area, and they had the riots, and you know it's the Aboriginals like spot. You know, and that's how it should have stayed.
Yeah.
Like,
one good thing I did hear recently,
they just like did this weird park and put a fence around it, so you know, black, white, dotted or spotted, you couldn't fucking go there. You know what I mean? Like that's not what Sydney's about. That's not multiculturalism. That's not fucking welcoming. You put a fence around the park with the
that's not flag. Inclusion. What was the crazy thing I saw today on
we bought the house to the street down.
Yeah. Well, one of the good things I did hear recently, a positive to that, is like the Mundine gym was around the corner, right, for years, right, like an institution.
Yeah.
And I've heard that it's actually about to reopen, but not under the Mundine flag, but under one of the old head trainers that was there forever. So for me, I thought at least that's cool. And that came from Rocky, who works with Max, who trained there for years. So
because that's right. I started tattooing in Redfern.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's where I actually started. Like, it all started the version of it in England, but I didn't take the opportunity I had because I had come back and bought the house, and then I went back. Like, I was just like back and forward a lot because dual citizenship.
Yeah, mate, living the dream. Yeah. Mate, my life would have been completely different if I had have had a red book. Like I did. I was away for 8 years.
Like me and my brother. Yeah, me and my brother lived like that for like 10, 15 years. Like, it wasn't a. I don't know what sounds
MJ, you take over.
Unrealistic.
Toilet. Be back.
It was we just.
Where in the UK did you live, man?
So I spent obviously London and all the Australian spots like Shepherd's Bush and Acton. We lived in Maida Vale, like Northwest, and that I lived in Scotland for quite a while. I moved to Edinburgh, and that was sort of my favourite spot.
Yeah,
Edinburgh was awesome. I took a crew up there, building.
A lot of this when you're still a carpenter, or were you tattooing at this point?
Yeah, no, I wasn't tattooing. I was building. Like, I was like, same as what I am tattooing. Like, I'm fucking all in, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 100%. Like, I was going for it.
Yeah.
Like, I bought a terrace house in like the inner Redfern when I was 24.
Mental.
Yeah,
I've been to Sydney a lot, but I haven't really been to Redfern. But what I understand,
Redfern's like any suburb.
And now it's a bit like trendy art galleries, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, it's still got a bit of grit, but it's sort of, but it's not like, it used to just be dangerous. Yeah. It wasn't like it wasn't somewhere you go hang out.
I know a guy.
Whereas now it's been gentrified, and there's obviously still that bit of grit there. Redfern, out of all the sort of city spots, has still got a bit.
I know a guy, he sees a loose syringe on the ground, he calls it a Redfern bindi.
Yeah. Well, I got a fucking good story about that. So we used to have this like foot, what do you call it? Where they used to put your bins out, but it wasn't like a lane, it was just like the bin lane. So we used to have these there's all these little bin lanes around Redfern. So not like you've got the lane, then the bin lane in between a half backyard and a thing it's dissected like they didn't think for the future, basically. I used to have one of them. And I remember one day we were renovating that, because I renovated that house and we're doing the roof or whatever. And my old dog, Rusty, was like this big staffy. And I was like, fuck, the door closed. We were locked out. I was like, Jesus Christ. And I was like, oh, mate, I'm going to have to chuck you over the back. So I chucked him over the back of the fence where the outhouse was and stuff. And I went to jump over and it was like that deep, man. Fucking that many bindies, Redfern bindies. And so I picked him up. Lucky I'd worked with someone. I was like, put him on my shoulder and I was like, fuck, you probably got the hip or whatever.
Mate, I remember one day coming to work at Innovision, like when it was back at Crown Street, Surrey Hills, come around the back to park my motorbike. We got the big skip bin there. I see this dude like scurrying away behind the bin, park my bike, and he's like, he's shooting up and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, man, I'm sorry. And I'm like, all good, dude, all good, dude. He goes, I'm smart, I won't leave it. I think I said to him, I said, just don't leave the syringe here. Yeah, I'm smarter than that. And then I remember as I walked away, he went, oh, maybe I'm not.
I'm gonna fucking another one, a good one. Not at the Glengarry, but because the Glen, how the corner pubs, there was like the Glengarry, there's the Glengarry still there, and then the other one down the other end, the Berkeley.
Yes.
And they're on the corner. So the guys, the lads, used to, because they were corner pubs and all the doors used to be up, there's no security. So I used to just be in that one, out that one, in that one, out that one, in that, you know, doing the rounds on the corners. And I used to joke as like this old Aboriginal dude, and he's fucking, they were his kids most of the time. And he'd in and out, and like I had my house got broken into over the Redfern Bindi back fence, and they stole the pasta jar full of coins. And then and I was sitting with the old man, like this is like a few days later up at the thing, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, bro." What are you talking about? He's like, "Oh, is that your house?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." I was like, "Lucky your fucking dad's here."
Mate.
He's
Hey,
like, "Oh,
guys,
we knew your dog wasn't there. You took him to work." And I was like, "Yeah, I took him to work that day. You fucking went in the back fence."
Mate, I hate to do it, guys. I'm going to have to shut this down in a couple of minutes because my missus wants me to do a TikTok dance with her with Boney M, Rasputin. We've been practicing it for months. And she reckons right now is the time when I'm primed to do it. So
Okay.
I'm at the tipping point of being...
You're on.
Yeah. But, mate, seriously, Todd, thank you so much for tonight, and MJ as well.
Thank you.
But we're going to do more of this as well. We're going to
Next
get you
week,
back, Todd.
there's a big drop next week, Matt.
Exactly. So we're going to do it. You just let me know when you're ready, and we're primed. Like, just get.
I like
in all
hump day.
honesty,
I'm good for
people
hump
that are
day.
out there that are listening and that are going to watch this, I have.
We'll upset the apple cart on Wednesday.
Let's do it, mate. Let's do it. But seriously, it's good, and I'm actually really glad to be privy to it. And you know, I think it's going to give an insight into the next generation of tattooing in Australia. And I couldn't think of anyone better to have this opportunity. So yeah, Matt, I can't wait for it, mate. It's going to be groundbreaking. So bring it on. Seriously, dude, it's fucking wild. It's awesome.
Thank
All
you.
right, MJ, I'll see you tomorrow night. I'll see you
Hey,
tomorrow
guys.
on Wednesday
Thank you.
night. Thanks so much, everyone. Let's chat soon. Ciao.